Good day guys, welcome back to our channel, Lavender Recap. In this video, we're going to see a 2012 American drama film directed by Robert Zemeckis titled Flight. The movie is all about a commuter airline pilot who tackles an unthought-of situation cleverly and saves the lives of nearly all passengers. But after being hospitalized, things were not in favor of Whip. What exactly happened to Whitaker after the accident? Want to know more about the movie? Here we go. Beware, spoilers ahead. The very first scene starts with Whip Whitaker waking up in a hotel, having one of his plane's flight attendants, Miss Katerina Marquez, in his bed. He was supposed to take off on a new flight after having an evening full of drinks, drugs, and injection sessions. He had the worst hangover that day and was trying to get himself out of a state of mental anguish. He receives a call from his ex-wife, Deanna. She came up with her new idea about shifting their son to a private school, and she wanted to discuss the same with Whip. But Whip was not in the mood to talk about that topic at that moment. Thus, he tells her that they can discuss it later after he comes back to Atlanta. Although Katerina had gone to the airport to get ready for the evening flight, Whip Whitaker was not able to get down from bed until he snorted a line of baby powder. After this, he was relieved from the hangover and started to head towards the airport. But now, nature started to play its role by pouring rain all over the airport building and airplanes. After reaching the place on time, Whip goes on a regular and quick inspection of the airplane and then boards it, speaking with another flight attendant, Miss Margaret. After performing the habitual chores, he meets his co-pilot Ken Evans. The co-pilot seems a bit apprehensive of our hero, Whip, as he takes a hit from his oxygen mask, but he assures Ken that he's fine to start the flight. The rain was heavy and was getting worse. They had to fight hard against it during the takeoff itself by pushing the plane harder and faster. As they move on, they encounter a problem with the weather system. Whip has Ken report to flight control that they'll be deviating from their actual path a bit to avoid the harsh weather. But this doesn't last long. Whip makes it and finds a break in the storm, which helps the plane settle down. He was appreciated by the passengers for this move. After a few moments, Whip feels sorry for the rough ride that occurred during the takeoff and thus personally addresses the passengers. But he uses this opportunity to fill his orange juice bottle with vodka. After finishing the drink, he relaxes and takes a small nap in the cockpit, giving the plane controls to Ken. While all these things happen in the sky, simultaneously another story starts in the ground. In a small town of Georgia, a prostitute named Nicole leaves the hotel after spending one night with a random client and calls her a drug connection from her cell phone. After the call, she heads straight to the guy's place, but there he was busy shooting a porno film. She doesn't bother about those things and buys a small amount of black pearl from him. When he hands over the drugs to Nicole, he warns her not to shoot too much and asks her to play a small part in the movie. But Nicole refuses this proposal and leaves the spot. She then goes home and to her surprise, she finds her sleazy complex manager in her apartment. He starts to yell at her for not paying the rent, and this develops into an argument. As he propositions her sexually, she coaxes him out of the door and locks it. Relaxing for some time, she then takes a hypodermic needle, and with that, she takes a hit of drugs. She passes out from an overdose. In the meantime, Whip is still lying asleep in his seat, whereas Ken is monitoring the flight. When Margaret reminds Ken to start to prepare for the landing, there's an abrupt jolt that hits the plane and then suddenly pitches into an uncontrolled dive. Everyone in the plane begins to panic and Ken struggles to get the plane back into control with the steering mechanism and the hydraulics. Sadly, these controls don't respond. Waking up from his nap suddenly due to the jolt, Whip tries all possible emergency maneuvers to bring the plane back under control. Ken goes to the cockpit to help, and Margaret stays with Whip. Margaret confesses that she loves her son through the flight recorder. All his attempts fail until he tries a crazy move. He rolls the airplane so that they would be flying upside down, which in turn gives him time to find a safer option for landing instead of crashing into pieces. One of the stewardesses, Miss Camila, gets on her heels to aid some of the injured passengers. When the plane lurches violently, she gets knocked unconscious. She gets pitched into the ceiling of the cabin when the plane rolls. Not only Camila, but a little champ also falls out of his seat when the plane rolls. But here comes Katerina to catch this flying champ and buckle him with her in their seats. Before making a rough landing, Whip is able to put the plane back in its normal position. While meeting the ground, one of the wings rub against a church tower. When the plane hits the ground, the impact is quite hard and Whip's head hits hard against the steering wheel. When Whip was being carried by local parishioners, he gains consciousness to see his co-pilot Ken being slumped over in his seat. Both Ken and Margaret are bleeding heavily, but Ken is unconscious. Katerina's head is not visible as it's under a steel plate, whereas her body is lying near Margaret. Just before making this harsh landing, the plane was noticed flying above Nicole's apartment complex, where we see her being taken out on a stretcher. The story now takes us to a hospital, where Whip wakes up and finds his friend Charlie Anderson waiting for him to wake up. Guess what? Now comes another unexpected problem. Though Charlie claims that Whip has saved many of the passengers with his tactical maneuver, he confesses the number of people who died during the plane crash, including Katerina, Camila, and 4 passengers. During the stay in the hospital, an acquaintance of Whip, Mr. Harley Mays, visits him, and he brings along some cigarettes and other things with him. Harley is quite jovial about the treatment that Whip was receiving and advises him to take better medications. He also tells Whip that his heroics have called the paparazzi out to his home and the hospital during the plane crash. When he gets out of his room, in search of a dark place to smoke, he encounters Nicole in a stairwell. After a few moments, there comes a cancer patient, Mark. Soon, Whip is identified by the cancer patient. Mark steers the conversation towards God and if disasters can be prevented or not. Mark's opinion is that there is no way to stop things from happening. He believes that he was meant to get cancer just as much as the 3 were meant to meet in the stairwell, and like these things, Whip was meant to land that plane. After Mark disappears, Whip tells Nicole that he would like to meet her after they get back home. Nicole agrees to his proposal and gives her address to him. Knowing that the media has surrounded his home, Whip heads towards his father's old farmhouse along with Harley. In the house, Whip notices that there is alcohol stored all around the place, but now he acts differently. He empties it all. He also throws away a small supply of Mary Jane. Although Whip refused to answer any message or phone calls on his phone, he receives a call from Charlie to the farmhouse number. Charlie arranged for a meeting in the hotel, and there Whip encounters a Chinese lawyer who explains to him that with the blood samples of Whip, it was confirmed that Whip had consumed drugs and vodka. The rest of the movie is all about how Charlie and other friends of Whip are trying to save him. In between, Whip finds the address of Nicole and meets her when she is fighting with her manager for the same unpaid rent. Seeing her in that situation, Whip takes her along with him. They both stay together in the farmhouse for a few days, and during a flight, Whip yells at Nicole. As a result, Nicole leaves Whip and walks away. On the day of the hearing, with Ellen presiding, it was determined that the cause of the accident was a damaged jack screw in the tail section that had not been repaired a few years prior. Along with this, Ellen also tells that 2 empty mini liquor bottles were discovered in the trash cans near the pilot's cabin. With the blood tests of the whole flight crew, it was confirmed that it was Katerina who has a documented history of alcohol and drug abuse. Hearing this, Whip is not able to control himself and confesses that it was himself who had drunk the vodka. Although Charlie was trying to save Whip, all these attempts failed. After spending 13 months in the prison, Whip is clean and gains the trust of his ex-wife and his son. The movie ends with Whip and his son confessing their love for each other. On the whole, the movie is a complete package of the typical life of a common pilot and portrays every minute thing that happens in his life. So guys, now it's your time. Tell us your opinions about the movie. Do you think the movie is worth watching? Write your answers in the comment section. Hope you liked this video. Before closing the video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and bell icons.